Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Taurus for October 2015. Check out my website, aspiritualspark.com, to see more about my current offerings. Also, to sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my VIP community and gives you all kinds of goodies instantly and in the times to come. We've got a wild month of October. We've got the aftermath of the eclipses. We've got Venus retrograde energy still lingering, if you can imagine. Been talking about this forever. We've got Mercury retrograde energy very active, and there's other transits that we have going on, and there's concentrations of energy in certain houses specifically for Taurus besides the general transit, so we'll just talk a little bit about all of it. We have been talking about Venus retrograde for several months, and by now maybe you're sick of it, but you know, it's good because it's over, finally, right? I think there are many wonderful things that came from it and that could come from it if you're watching while the energy is still going on. But sometimes it can feel a little bit long, you know? We've got the pre-retrograde shadow period that started at the end of June. It went retrograde in July. It was retrograde from July 25th to September 6th. And the shadow period, the post-shadow period, stretched all the way until October 9th. These shadow periods are really important to consider. There's so much more awareness to the transits like Mercury retrograde, which happens very often, to Venus retrograde, which happens less often, but still enough that you really want to keep up on it. But we don't give a lot of attention to these shadow periods, and so I've been doing a lot of work to make sure that I go into some detail to help you understand this because it's really relevant. It's like the way that I describe these retrogrades is if you're cruising along, going 60 miles an hour, then you realize that you have to make a U-turn, you have to slow down, you have to change lanes, you have to come to a complete stop. Possibly you've got to wait for an extended period of time while the traffic in the other direction will clear enough for you to turn around. And that's what a retrograde is like. There's a planet and the things that it rules cruising along. And then in that time before it actually goes retrograde, the retrograde here is represented by the being stopped and waiting for you to be able to go make your U-turn. But the pre-retrograde is that time in the couple of weeks or several weeks or months, depending on the planet, before that happens. So things start to slow down, effects start to become prominent. If you're looking for it, you'll definitely see, in some cases, the pre-retrograde period is as active as the actual retrograde period itself for whatever is going on. So we've had pre-retrograde, we had Venus retrograde. Venus rules love, beauty, and money. These are, and so relationships and finances, and you know, so this is going on for a long time. I did a separate video called Venus retrograde. If you haven't listened to it yet, definitely there's some good stuff in there for you to understand the transit better and to max it out. So here now at the beginning of October, we're just now ending the shadow period that comes after it went direct on September 6th. And the after period is like once you have the clear and you're pulling in to make your U-turn, you're having to get back up to speed, and maybe cars are whizzing by you and it's uncomfortable and it's kind of awkward. Okay, so that post-shadow period is like the regaining of the speed. There's still awkwardness there. But as of October 9th, that's clear. Now on October 9th, we also have Mercury go direct. Mercury went retrograde on September 17th. And the shadow period for it started August 29th. So August 29th through September 17th, Mercury shadow period. Mercury retrograde from September 17th through October 9th. Then the post-retrograde shadow period lasts from October 9th through October 24th. And Mercury rules communication and transportation and the devices and vehicles, etc., that we use to transport ourselves and to communicate. So it covers a lot of things as well, just like Venus does. So there's a lot of rules and things to do, things to not do, things to be aware of. And I did a separate video called Mercury retrograde that you can listen to more details about that because we don't have time to get into all of that today. But almost the whole month of October until like the 24th is very much covered in this Mercury retrograde energy, which really indicates more going backwards. So we've had for many months this energy of going backwards, and any advances that you wind up making will be from looking at things backwards, doing things from the past, doing a second run of things, a third run, a rerun, doing something over, reassessing, redoing, reevaluating. And that energy really is continuing through most of October. Now around October 23rd and 24th, this is your big shining time to launch new things, bring those things out that you've been redoing and reevaluating. There's something brand new you've never done before and you've been waiting for these retrogrades to clear. When you get to the end of October, you've got some really nice times to do that. So I like around the 23rd and 24th because Venus is making some very favorable aspects, one to Pluto and then one to Jupiter around those times. So that's my recommendation, is to wait until then. Even though as of October 9th, Mercury and Venus kind of are doing something where there's a shift, it's not quite right yet. It's not quite right yet, okay? You always have to trust your intuition, and something in your personal chart could always supersede something that is recommended in the general astrology. But these rules are rules for reasons. They're trying to save you, save you from challenges and conflicts or having a harder time. Okay, so then we also have, I'm calling it the aftermath of the eclipses, but for many of you, you'll have super positive events that come, especially from the solar eclipse. Some of you may have some challenging news, life-altering news that's not positive from the September eclipses. You could have gotten that news as early as August. Some of you, a very few amount of you, will actually get your eclipse news in October. If it didn't come yet, it could come in October. So if you're waiting for something positive and specific to eclipses, you still could get some more information in October as well. There's a range of this period of time, you know, even though the eclipses happen September 13th, the solar eclipse September 27th, the lunar eclipse, it's very rarely on those actual days that the events happen, you know, although something notable could be carried along the continuum on one of those days. There's all this energy is ripe for something to happen from those energies over about 6 months before, or 6 weeks before the actual eclipse, and 6 months or 6 weeks after. I keep saying 6 months because the eclipses have a plus 6 months manifestation period. So if something happens now, you get your news, it could take up to 6 months for the story of the eclipse to be revealed. So 6 weeks, 6 months, they're both relevant for eclipses in some way. So let's talk about some specific things for Taurus. As the planets are moving in their orbits, they tend to cluster in certain areas, and when that happens, there's a certain field of experience or several fields of experience that are highlighted as very active in this short period of time for whoever's chart we're looking at. So in this case, Taurus. So we've got a big grouping of energy down at the bottom right of your solar charts, and that's highlighting the 5th house for all of you. All of you will have major 5th house manifestations, and I'm going to talk about what that means. Also, you earlier degree placements are going to start to have some 6th house manifestations, but the rest of you pay attention when I talk about the 6th house manifestations, because middle and late degree placements, what the early degree placements have going on in the 6th house, you're going to have that coming. So it's either happening in the month of October or it's coming after that for you. It's staggered depending on where your placement is. So the 5th house is all about love and romance and fun things and hobbies and children and creativity, creative projects, music and art, athleticism, whatever, like a gift that you have, something that you're really good at. A lot of times we'll find that in the 5th house. If you're in the creative fields of experience, with all the many that there are, that's all 5th house, because the 5th house is ruled by the sun, and that's the energy of Leo. And the energy of Leo is strongly accentuated for you at this time. So this means that it's time for you to have more fun. And Taurus energy in general works very hard and is very focused on being disciplined and devoted. And this is a time for your creativity to come out more and for you to have more fun and do more stuff with your kids, or if you're trying to have children, focusing on that. This is a big time for fun and frolic. So you've got short-term energies there. The planets that are called the inner planets, the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, they take a shorter time to get around their orbits and they're closer to the Sun. Those tend to have a shorter term influence in the chart. So in October, you've got this short-term influence of all this 5th house stuff, but because Jupiter is there, this is also a trend for the long term. So this story of trying to have more fun, trying to have more romance in your life, figuring out the things that make you happy and doing those things, and if you can then also make money from those things, fantastic. But in any way, fitting in fun things and making your life more joyous, that is a short-term concentration, but a long-term trend, because Jupiter has a longer orbit. So it's there too. So this is just, you're not going to get away from this. We're going to keep coming back to this over time, well into next year, especially for your later degree placements who are going to have it starting to brew a little bit later than the earlier degree placements. So be thinking about that, be thinking about what makes you happy, be thinking about what's fun for you. Really, why do people look to astrology? There's different reasons for different people, but in general, everybody wants to be either more happy, or if they are happy already, they want to continue to improve their lives, right? So if you're looking to astrology to hear the answer to the question, when am I going to be happy, or when am I going to be happier? The answer to that partially may come through certain transits that can be positive, but the more you do inner work, I'm always talking about inner work, the more you can become happy now, that your happiness comes from inside of you and is not dependent on people, places, or things. Humanity has a plague upon it, which is this addiction to things outside of the self for happiness. And so the more you can cultivate that happiness within, the more you attract to you more fun from the outside. Fun on the inside equals more fun on the outside. And sometimes you have to do more fun on the outside to help spark how you can keep that as more of a constant feeling. Again, without being dependent on the outer realms, but creating more ways that it can manifest through the outer realms by shifting things within yourself. If you were brought up in a way that your parents worked very hard and were very responsible and taught you that you have to be really responsible and that fun is secondary. Fun comes after all the work is done, if there's any energy left. Fun comes, when everything is taken care of. You can't have fun while you do the things you have to do. These programs that we have just planted into our being. Those are the kind of things that if you make some major headway on those, then your life can be so much happier. And this is just the theme of happy, 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 happy for Taurus, because this 5th house. Now, there's the shorter term planets are starting to move into the 6th house. And the 6th house is all about organization and discernment and cleaning up your space and health and diet and your regimen and your routine and your work life, your daily space. What is it like in your daily space? It rules pets also. So you might find some new focus on your health, on your diet, on areas that have to do with things that would require discipline, like meditation and yoga, or even getting some medical treatments for things. And you might start to see that practitioners that are perfect for whatever you're working on might just start to fall into your lap. Or you're really attracted to them, like, a moth to the flame, where it's like you're wanting these certain shifts to come about. Maybe you're wanting to meditate more and you attract a meditation coach, or, things that you're working on, you start to attract the right practitioner for that. So that's going on. Something else that the 6th house rules is the quality of your surroundings, okay? So it's like your space. It's basically your space around you in the many forms that takes. Your space at work, your space in your car, your space at home, your space in your relationships, your space with your friends. It's that space that's immediately surrounding you. And for many people, that has gotten really congested. Facebook is an example of how this happens. You might look at your friend list one day and say, gosh, who are these people? I don't even know them, and they're in my space. And the same thing with your list of friends, people who you call friends. How many of them are in resonance with who you are right now? It doesn't mean that you have to decide to not be friends with someone if they're not in resonance with you, but how you spend your time and who you spend your time with is going to be a major factor in what you're creating in the future. And if things you're trying to create in the future are not in line with your current surroundings, then you have to start to shift your current surroundings in order to shift your future. And this question is very critical. And the 6th house rules all of that. So if you have been in a habit or in a familiar situation where you've been interacting with people because it's familiar, or because, of course, you've known them forever or whatever, like that, start to ask the question, is it really working for you? You know, is it really working for you? That's one of the big questions of this time. And what can you do? I mean, you may or may not have to have a big, you know, official, hey, I'm not really resonating with you anymore, so I gotta go conversation, or you can just start to spend your time doing other things and let the course of the interaction or the relationship take its course, you know? But this is really, really important. You've got to assess what your priorities are, and then assess what your current surroundings are and see where there's a disconnect and shift that disconnect. So for you later degree placements, you still have quite a bit of energy in the 4th house as well. And the 4th house has to do with home and family and roots and ancestry and actual houses, like real estate things or things involving real estate, construction, design, etc. So there's a strong focus there for you later degree placements. And you still have the 5th house focus, all of you do. And so it'll take a little bit more time for what I'm talking about, the 6th house stuff, to become prominent. But you might feel it coming, you know, sensitive people, especially if you're paying attention and especially if you're clued in that this is what's coming, you might notice that you feel it in the wind or that you feel it in your bones. I always say I feel it in my bones. When there's something that is coming, it's like I feel it down so deep that I feel it in my bones. And that's how these astrological transits are. So the more you pay attention, you might notice, well, gosh, I was feeling that way, even though it's not quite here yet. The analogy that I'm using now, I thought of it for this October series is, I don't know if you've ever experienced a didgeridoo. A didgeridoo is a fantastic healing instrument. And if you're in the room with the didgeridoo, if let's say the practitioner is very far away, you can still feel the vibrations, right? But then when you're in early degree placement, it's like the practitioner comes and runs the didgeridoo's energy up and down your individual energy field. So that's the early degree placements. And the middle degree placements are sitting next in line, and the late degree placements are sitting last in line. So you all start to feel these things. It's just the degree to which and the intensity that the manifestations have shift depending on where the focus is, you know? Also like a spotlight that's coming in and it's over here now. And so there's light coming all around it. So anyone near it is going to see the light. But when it's like right on you, that is going to make a huge difference, you know? So whether you're feeling it coming or you just have felt it past, or whether it's like, I'm talking to you right now, you know, that's the difference the early, middle, and late degree placements make. I always say if you have a late degree placement, so if you're a late degree Taurus or if your birthday is late in the sign, then consider listening to the early Gemini reports, because when I say the late Taurus and the early Gemini charts are exactly the same, pretty much. So you might pick up pieces in the early Gemini report that are more relevant for you than some of the things that are being said in the Taurus report, although there will be something there for you as well. And if you're an early degree Taurus, you might want to listen to the Aries report and listen to the late degree Aries, because those charts are going to look identical. So, and if you don't know what degree your placements are at, you can look for a free birth chart to run online and just look at the number, the degrees. It'll be between 0 and 29 degrees, and around 0 to 10-ish degrees is early, and around 11 to 19 or 20 is middle, and then 20 to 29 is late degree. And the later it is, the more you're getting into that cuspy territory. So you can really amplify your use of astrology by understanding where you fall in those sections. Many people have been watching reports all forever with a certain sign, only to come to find when they pay attention to this early, middle, late, that they've been missing these dimensions all this time, you know? Something else that is good to pay attention to is watching the report for your sun sign and for your rising sign. Some people also watch for their moon sign. I don't personally do that unless my intuition says, hey, there's something for you, in this type of chart, and you need to look at that, because it can be overwhelming to try to look at too many things at once. But the rising sign chart and the sun chart each have different components for you. It's kind of like, someone just asked about this in a post, and this is the example that came to me. When you have a pudding, or when you have you have a pumpkin pie, you've got the filling and you've got the crust. And the filling is like the sun sign, watching the report for your sun sign. It's like, okay, that's your sun sign. That's really relevant. That's the filling. And then the rising sign is like watching the report for your rising sign is like the crust. So you kind of, some people like the crust. You can have the crust separate from the filling, but when you put them together, it's better because you have another dimension of the experience. You have one experience if you eat the filling. You have one experience if you eat the crust. When you eat it together, you have another additive experience. And then if you want to put your moon sign in there, that's like the whipped cream on top, right? It's just these little layers. And then if you look at your solar return chart and you look at your progress chart, then those are like little sprinkles of cinnamon or cacao nibs on top of the whipped cream. You know, it's like, I always think of food when I think of things involving astrology. It's like layers and layers and layers. So if someone is confused to say, well, how come I watch this, but then I also watch this? Humans are complex and life is complex and there's layers of experience. And the more layers you look at, it weaves together this story that is more complete for you, you know? Just looking at one aspect or one layer is fine and it's helpful. It's just, it doesn't get as yummy as if you eat the whole pie with all the fixins, right? So hopefully that encourages you to broaden your astrological scope so that you can get more astrological goodness into your life by understanding that. And if you would like some assistance with a personal reading, you can go to my chart. I will look at your chart for you when you go to my website, aspiritualspark.com. You can see more about my personal coaching. And you can also sign up for my free email newsletter, which makes you part of my VIP crew, which gives you access to the write-up that I do, the astrological write-up I do before each month. That gives you sometimes a lot of details that I don't get to talk about in the horoscope. So it's additive to the videos. And I hope that you have a wonderful October. Bye.